So good morning, everyone. My name is Alex Challis. Welcome to this webinar of Sumo Logic's Cloud SIEM product. This is a monthly webinar that we do, obviously, to showcase the Cloud SIEM product. Just very quickly on the housekeeping side of things, the session's scheduled for 30 minutes. If you wish to ask any questions as we go along, you'll find there's a Q&A, a question and answer button available on the webinar taskbar. So if you want to ask any questions, please feel free to click the Q&A button and post your question. In terms of how we plan to spend the next 30 minutes, I have a couple of slides to show you just to set the scene before we move into the demo, and then towards the end, as we approach the end of the webinar, we'll do the question and answers. So, as I said, if you want to ask any questions, please post them as we go along. So, good morning, everyone, and welcome to this monthly Cloud SIEM webinar. Today, we're going to look at improving mean time to detection by using some of the automation features of Cloud SIEM. So I just thought, really, in the wake of the SolarWinds compromise, the supply chain attack, just to really sort of remind ourselves of some of these statistics. Again, this is really probably no news for the majority of you here. But these stats, which come from one of the Ponemon breach reports from previous years, is 206 days for essentially mean time to detect, so for organizations to identify breaches, and then on average 66 days to tidy up from those breaches. Clearly, the sooner you can detect a breach, the quicker your remediation and your clear up exercise is going to be. In the case of SolarWinds, clearly this has been ongoing for a very long time, and clearly the threat actors have been able to use the supply chain to compromise many other organizations. So anyway, as I said, we're really looking today at how we can use some of the automation in Cloud SIEM. And before we do that, I just really wanted to spend a second really just to recap on some of the challenges that security operations are facing today, and really what's behind the need to drive change within security operations. The first of these is really digital or cloud transformation. Clearly, most legacy SIEM products were developed way before people were deploying cloud services. This makes it difficult for them to collect and get visibility into both public and private clouds. The second aspect is the threat landscape. Clearly, as we move workloads to the cloud, be that public or private, the threat landscape or the attack surface, changes. It becomes more diverse, and obviously more difficult for security analysts to get insight into what's happening within those environments. And the third problem, which is really, I guess, very much the focus of this webinar today, is this concept of alert fatigue. And really, the reason behind alert fatigue is quite simply the fact the explosion of data, the explosion of data sources, as we were just talking about, the movement of workloads into public and private clouds, is really producing so much security data that understanding, analyzing, prioritizing that security data is no longer a human scale problem. And if you look in the vast majority of security operations centers today, particularly the larger ones, typically you take your data through an alert triage process, maybe as a tier 1 function as part of the SOC. And this causes a tremendous amount of effort to go into the detection problem, and we believe by applying some technology here to that detection problem that we can remove alert fatigue and leverage automation to do that tier 1 alert triage. So this next slide here, really, this is some statistics taken from one of our pilot customers. And they were an existing SIEM tool user. They were collecting somewhere around 10 billion log lines, or records as we call them, a day. and they were correlating them, as with most SIEM products, using a rules-based correlation engine. And that rules-based correlation engine was doing its job, so it's doing the data reduction. It was reducing those 10 billion log lines down to a mere 10 million log lines. So tremendous orders of magnitude in terms of the data reduction there. But clearly, 10 million signals or detections, notables, well, whatever you want to call them, correlated events, alerts. Clearly, 10 million of them in any SOC is just far, far too many. And so what we do at Sumo Logic is we provide an additional layer of correlation that rides on top of the signal layer, and we call this insights. And the purpose of insights is to collect together related correlations, related detections automatically, so performing that alert triage process. And in this particular customer, those 10 million signals boiled up to a mere 175 insights. So a tiny proportion of the overall number of records being ingested. And then, as you can see from the statistics there, more than half of them didn't require any follow-up. A very small number were so-called false positives. But it really allowed them to sharpen their SOC's attention and focus on the 65 real incidents that were highlighted as part of their evaluation. So if we take just a quick look at Cloud SIEM, these are really the 6 areas where we differentiate from our competition. So the first is this automatic generation of what we call insights. So these are actionable, if you like, alerts or collections of detections organized as prioritized alerts. They're enriched, so they provide you with the types of additional context that you expect, and many organizations are deploying SOAR to provide. So we're providing that enrichment functionality as well. That's all running on top of a multi-tenanted SaaS. So we benefit from all of the elastic scalability that a SaaS platform like AWS, which is what we run on top of, provides. But we're also able to give visibility into other clouds as well. So we're able to collect data from GCP and Azure and provide a single view, if you like, across your multi-cloud environments. We also provide a capability to collect data on-premise for those of you who still have, obviously, your own data centers, your own infrastructure to monitor. We have that capability as well. So we're really able to do the collection, the analysis across the spread of public, private, and on-premise environments, so-called hybrid cloud type environments. The service itself, Sumo Logic, provides you with a deep search interface. So this is really our threat hunting interface, enabling you to create very sophisticated, specific searches to identify things of interest in the data. In terms of time to value, because we're a SaaS, there's no infrastructure to deploy. You can obviously sign up for the service and start deploying and collecting data really in a matter of a few minutes. And then finally, we're a general purpose machine readable log data platform that also provides the capability to detect and analyze metrics. So this is through our observability solutions, as well as enabling you to build more business orientated business intelligence types views as well. So we really run the gamut of log, event, tracing, and metric data with the underlying platform. Of course, today's webinar is really obviously to focus on our Cloud SIEM offering, our security offering, and we'll take a look at the product in just a second. But really just to answer the 4 main reasons why you should be considering Sumo Logic for your SIEM. The first is this automatic correlation layer. We call it insights. I'll show you some insights in just a second. So this will enable you to streamline detections within your security operations center and bubble up the most threatening collections of detections and ensure your analysts are working on the most threatening detections first and foremost. As I mentioned a second ago, we provide a lot of the functionality that so-called security orchestration or SOAR products provide, giving the analyst much deeper context through enrichment of the log data as we collect it. We provide a workflow automation. So if you're working in a large SOC with multiple tiers, you're able to organize the workflow within the product around those tiers, or just use the simple out of the box staging of the insights if you're working in a smaller environment. And then finally, really, you know, the benefit of running as a cloud native SaaS application means that we're really able to scale up on demand to huge scales, terabytes of data per tenant. And if you look at our overall service, we're processing and analyzing many petabytes of data. So without any further ado, I will switch over to Cloud SIEM Enterprise. So what you see on the screen now is what we call our head-up display. This is all about situational awareness. And the Insight Radar, as we call it, in the middle of the screen here, charts three key metrics. You can see the current value of those metrics in the top left-hand corner here. So records, that's this outer ring in the Insight Radar that you see here. This is simply charting the ingest and normalization of your log data. So records, this is the first thing that happens as part of our processing pipeline. We take the raw log data, we normalize it, we decorate it, we enrich it and provide that additional context for analysts. Excuse me. The second metric here, signals. You can see that in this histogram provided in the middle of the Insight Radar here. This is indicating the number of detections that are being generated by our correlation engine. So just like with other SIEM products, we have a rules-based or statistics-based correlation engine, and clearly the purpose of that is to help find the needle in the haystack. Just as you would with traditional SIEMs. I guess the big difference is the traditional SIEMs stop there. They stop at this signal layer, and as I mentioned earlier, correlation is really all about data reduction, and as we can see, we've got some great data reduction here. But again, you still wouldn't want to be having to look through or build a SOC to look through 73,000 signals on the daily basis that we're currently looking at here. So this is where the power of Cloud SIEM's insights come into play. So that's the final metric you see here. And the insights have been correlated automatically, mimicking the alert triage process. And what we've done is from those 73,000 signals, we've correlated 6 individual insights that you can see quite clearly presented on the Insight Radar here as these triangles. And then as I mouse over each of these triangles, you can see obviously the color provides an indication of the stage or the status of each of these insights. At the end here, this red one that we can see here, as you can see, is a new insight that's arrived within our demo security operations center. So let's jump in and take a look at this insight. So this particular insight here, as you can see, relates to initial access. There's some execution, credential access and discovery. So I'm sure you guys will recognize these as MITRE attack tactics. So one of the things, or one of the ways we identify each insight is by the MITRE attack tactics that the collected detections, the signals that make up this insight are related to. The other thing that you can see is obviously the name insight and 1936. So that's an insight ID, obviously allows you to easily communicate and interest in particular insights amongst the team. And it's a bit like a ticket really, an incident number. And as I begin working through my insight here as an analyst, probably the first thing I should be doing, obviously if I'm working in a SOC as part of the team, is let my teammates know that I'm beginning to work this particular insight so that they don't go and duplicate effort. I can either go ahead and assign it to myself or another individual, or maybe even a tier or a team as part of the SOC as well. So in the larger environments, what our customers do is obviously organize their SOC into tiers, and then obviously you would assign each insight appropriately to each tier as you work through the tiers. So as I said, I've assigned that to myself. You can see here the entity, in this particular case, an IP address. So entities are really the key pivot point that we provide as insights. So each insight collects together related detections for the entity. In this particular case, as we can see, it's an IP address, but the entity might be a host or a DNS name, for example, or maybe a username. They tend to be the most common ones. In terms of these statistics you see here, we see that the most recent detection happened a little over a day ago, but this insight collects together 4 unique signals. So there's a whole deduplication suppression layer happening under the hood here, ensuring that you're dealing with unique events as part of each insight. As I said at the outset here, really that the purpose of this webinar really was to focus on mean time to detection. The product, as you can see, creates some of the key metrics that organizations use for managing their SOCs. You can use obviously when the last event was detected or the insight was created, as well as things like dwell time, obviously to understand your mean time to detect, and also importantly your mean time to respond as well. Finally, I can tag incidents. So many security operations centers have a taxonomy that they use for labeling incidents, maybe for reporting at a later date. So I can go ahead and tag them. Makes it easy to come back and obviously locate insights at a later date. Or you can just keep freeform comments at the bottom here, which as analysts work through and make notes obviously appear. If we move over to the main part of the screen here, what we can see is 4 signals. Each of these signals, so detections, notables, alerts, correlated events, whatever you want to call them. As I said, we call them signals. And we can see here there's 4 signals which are charted over actually quite a long period of time. So this is not unusual, right? In many hacks, there'll be an initial compromise, maybe some theft of data, and then things go quiet. As you can see here in this particular example, things have gone quiet for several days, over a week, before the threat actor comes back and executes their attack at the end of that period here. And as you can see, being able to mouse over the timeline really allows the analyst to understand the progression of the attack over time. In terms of the detail, each one of the detections, the signals as we call them, is called out individually under the insight here. So we can see that this particular insight started with this enumeration of the SAM user database, and then obviously, as we were just saying, it went quiet for a while. Presumably, the threat actor was taking that database away to go and extract some hashes, which they later are coming back to use to attack your Active Directory. We have a Palo Alto event here warning us that there's also a brute force attempt happening, and then right at the very end here, the execution phase is obviously detected, pardon me, in this particular case by Cisco AMP, which is warning us about a particular malware being detected. Now, each of these signals, as I've scrolled through, you can probably notice that what we've done is we're bringing to the top of the signal all of the key information. So we can see here, for example, the hash that this particular bad binary was matched against, as well as the file name in which it was detected. So this is part of the enrichment process that happens when we collect and normalize the data. But the other thing that we're also able to do is to trigger enrichment. So if we notice this this extra tab at the top of the screen here, we have a triggered NS lookup enrichment here, which enabled us to, when the insight was generated, to go and do a dynamic enrichment. In this particular case, resolving the host name from the IP address. But it's not limited to this. We also have integrations with other products, for example, CrowdStrike, VirusTotal. In fact, there are a large number of integrations that come out of the box, but you can also use what we call an enrichment server to build and trigger your own enrichment integrations, and very much achieve many of the objectives of SOAR in terms of giving the analyst additional context. So that was really what I had planned to show you guys for today. Let me have a quick look here. If we flip back, it's time for questions. So let me take a look here. Oh, okay. So the first question here was whether the webinar was being recorded and available for later download. Yes, it is being recorded, and if you've registered for the webinar, then that will obviously be available for you guys to download and refer back to. As I said earlier, if you have any questions you'd like to ask, there is a Q&A button that you'll find on the Zoom taskbar. If you want to click that and ask your questions. The next question I have to answer here. Okay, this is a great question. So this is related to essentially time to value, right? Or to, I guess an extension of time to detect. So how long does Cloud SIEM take to deploy? So this is because we're a cloud-based SaaS application, we deploy very, very quickly. In fact, you can be collecting, if you're in a pure cloud native environment, you could be collecting and processing data really simply in a few minutes after you've completed registration and got access to the SaaS portal. From that point onwards, you're obviously able to begin ingesting data. With our cloud-to-cloud connectors, we're able to obviously reach out not only to AWS but other public clouds and collect data in a pure infrastructureless kind of way. So yeah, I mean, if you're cloud to cloud, you should be up and running in several minutes. If you've got on-premise infrastructure, then obviously it will probably take you a couple of days to get the collector software deployed into your infrastructure, but the system itself is available rapidly. Let's see what other questions. Okay, great question. So how many out-of-the-box insights are there? And how do we create custom insights? So the insight layer, as I mentioned, is fully automatic. So that you don't have to do anything out of the box to benefit from insights. Insights will automatically look through your detections. It will join together related detections. And once it finds a collection of related detections, it will automatically generate an insight. Of course, you can create what we call manual insights. So if there's particular detections, particular signals that you're interested in, or if they occur, you're interested in knowing about them, then you can also configure a manual insight as well. So thank you for that. Next question here is, okay, so can Cloud SIEM do a pre-check to catch already existing threats, excuse me, in an environment? A bit like a health check. Yeah, so perhaps where you're coming from this question is many products today require you to go through kind of a learning period where maybe they're going to learn existing hacks in the environment, or existing threat actors in the environment. We don't depend heavily on any form of learning period. So if there is a threat actor in the environment, we're not gonna learn that as good behavior, if you like. So as soon as they do something to trigger one of the detections, then Cloud SIEM will immediately pick that up and bring it to your attention in the form of a signal as part of an insight. Next question, Cloud SIEM availability in Europe. It's available in Europe. It has been available in Europe for several years now, and we operate either out of Dublin or Frankfurt AWS regions. Thank you for that question. Who else? Okay. Okay, so we saw that you saw that we'd integrated with Palo Alto firewalls. What other firewalls do we integrate with out of the box? All of the commercial firewall products on the market is probably the short answer. So Fortinet, Cisco, both the Acer firewall product as well as the more current Firepower product as well. So yeah, all of the popular commercial firewall products on the market are supported. And let's see. Okay, I think that's it really for questions for today. Thank you very much for obviously for your attendance. Thank you very much for your questions as well. I hope you found today's session informative, and I hope it obviously prompts you to request a follow-up in-depth presentation and demo that we obviously would be happy to do, and come and discuss your unique requirements as well. Just as a final note, really, if we've piqued your interest in security, but maybe you have a broader remit, we also have a observability, so a metrics related demo that we're running at the same time tomorrow. So obviously feel free to go ahead and register for that, and you'll find out about what we can do to help you measure and monitor your infrastructure through using our observability products as well. But thank you very much for your attention again today. As I said, I hope it was informative, and it's piqued your interest in following up and finding out a little bit more about Sumo Logic. I hope you have a quiet and productive rest of the day, but thank you very much for attending.